Hello boys and girls, it's Auntie Nina here. Today I want to share with you the stories told in Genesis chapter 3. So in Genesis chapter 3 we meet the serpent. Now the serpent, when you think about him, you usually think about like a snake crawls on the ground, right? But he wasn't always like that. Scholars, some really smart people who do lots of research, believe that the serpent used to actually fly like the birds in the trees. But let me go back to the story now. So in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were happy and they had everything that they could possibly need. And the only one rule that God gave them before in the other chapter was not to eat or touch the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So the serpent came to Eve one day and he said, "Look at those delicious fruit. Why don't you try some?" Now Eve knew that she was not supposed to eat or touch that tree, because God said that if they touched that tree, that they would surely die, right? And the serpent said, did God really say that? I think that God just doesn't want you to eat that fruit because he knows that if you eat that fruit, that you'll be like him and you'll know good from evil. Now Eve thought about what the serpent said and she looked at the fruit and it looked good to her. So she decided to take it and eat it. And she gave some of the fruit to her husband Adam, who was with her, and he also ate it. See now, boys and girls, that talks about temptation. If it's not something that you should do, you shouldn't do it. Because think about it, there's a reason why you're not supposed to do it, right? And temptation, it looks good. It wouldn't tempt you if it didn't. But when you know you're not supposed to do something, don't do it, right? So Adam and Eve, they took the fruit and they ate it. And immediately their eyes were opened. And it's not that they were walking around with their eyes closed like this, but their minds were opened. And they knew good from evil. And right away, they knew that they were naked. And they got uncomfortable, and they decided that they were going to take some leaves from a fig tree. Now, a fig is a delicious fruit. You should try it if you've never tried it. But they took the leaves from the fig tree and they sewed together little aprons to cover their private areas. Now, later in the day, when it got cool, God came to visit with them like he always did. He wanted to spend time with them. And he knew where they were. He knew what was going on because he's God, right? Just like your parents usually know where you are and what you're up to. But he called and he said, "Adam, where are you?" And Adam and Eve were hiding behind a tree because they knew that they were naked and they didn't want God to see them naked. So Adam was like, "Oh, we heard your voice and we hid behind the trees because we were naked." And God said, "Who told you you were naked?" And Adam said, "Oh, it's that woman you gave me. She made me eat the fruit that you told us not to touch." And that's not how it went down. We know that's not how it went down, but that's what he told God, right? He blamed it on the woman. And then God said to the woman, "What have you done?" And then the woman said, "Oh, the serpent tricked me and made me eat the fruit." And we know that's not how it went down either. She chose to do it, right? And then God looked at the serpent and said, "You know what? Because you did this, now you're going to be cursed. Now you're going to crawl on your belly all of the days of your life, and you're going to eat the dirt of the ground. And there's going to be enmity, meaning there's a problem between you and the woman. Now you guys are going to be enemies. So her kids are going to crush your kids' heads, and your kids are going to bite her kids' heels." Not a good thing, right? And then he said to Adam, "From now on, when you're hungry, you're going to have to work the soil. You can't just pick the fruit off the trees anymore. Now you're going to have to work in the soil, and it's going to be tough, right? There are going to be thorns and prickly things, and you're going to have to work in order to eat the fruit from the ground, right? And woman, because you did this, when you have children, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough on you. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be painful when you have babies." But God loved Adam and Eve so much. He didn't want to curse them, so the ground ended up with thorns, and the ground was cursed instead of Adam and Eve. When this happened, God said, "Wow, look at this now. Man knows good from evil, right? If we leave them in the garden, they'll have access to the tree of eternal life." So imagine now Adam and Eve chose to disobey God. They sinned. by choosing to do what they knew was wrong, right? Now, God does not want sin to last forever, so he had to tell them to leave the Garden of Eden, where they had everything, because if they stayed in the garden, then sin would be able to live forever. So God knew that they were uncomfortable being naked, so he ended up having to take skin from an animal to make them clothes. So an animal was sacrificed so that they could have clothing to wear. And then they were told that they had to leave the garden, right? And God sent angels called cherubims, which are big, beautiful angels with many wings and swords, to protect the entrance of the Garden of Eden in all directions. So to this day, no one can go into the Garden of Eden because it's protected by the angels. So this is all found in Genesis chapter 3. I want to ask you guys, do you realize how there was mercy in this chapter? In that God knew that Adam and Eve chose to sin. They chose to do the wrong thing. He knew that they didn't take responsibility. They each blamed somebody else, right? But he loved them enough to still protect them and give them clothing. And in order to save them from being sinful forever, he told them to leave the garden, right? But still made a way for them to be able to do things. When you think about it, you may be little, right? You may be young, but God gave you the power to make decisions. He gives you choices, right? He tells you what's good for you. He tells you what he wants you to do, but he's not a bully. He doesn't make you do it. He lets you choose. Are you going to do good things or are you going to do bad things? And then you get to have the consequences based on your choice. So if you choose good, you'll have good things. If you choose bad, you'll have bad things. But the choice is yours. Auntie Nina here wants to encourage you. Pray when you're making decisions and ask God to show you what you should do, because he loves you more than anyone on ever in this planet or anywhere else can ever love you, and he wants the very best for you. So if you ask him what you should do and you listen to what he tells you, he'll help you to make good decisions and he'll help you to choose good things. All right? And if you make a mistake, it's okay to make mistakes because we are not perfect. But we have to be able to say, I made a mistake, right? And then we have to fix, even if we can try and make it right by accepting the consequences for our actions, right? Take responsibility for the things that we do so that we can make it right. And then the world can be a much, much better place because we'll all be making better decisions and being more responsible. I hope that this lesson was a good one for you. I encourage you to read Genesis chapter 3 for yourself and tell me, do you think that God was merciful by letting Adam and Eve leave the garden so that sin would not last forever? Or do you think that it would be better to have sin forever? I'm curious to know what you think. I hope that you have a great day. Stay blessed and bye-bye.